You said you would stay consistent this time. Yes, you had a plan, you had the motivation, you even started strong. And then a few days later, you stopped again. Well, here's the part no one tells you. It's not that you lack discipline, it's not that you're lazy, it's that you're stuck in a loop that forces you to quit. And if you watch my last video on why you can't focus, this is what happens after that problem goes unchecked. Alright, now, before anything else, let's call back the last video where we broke down why you can't focus even when you try. And it boils down to constant distractions, low mental energy, no real system. But here's what that leads to. You don't just struggle to focus, you start things the wrong way. And when you start wrong, you don't last. So this isn't a motivation problem. This is a pattern problem. So today, we're talking about quitting when you start a task. But here's the thing. I'm not making an advice video because that's not what's going to help you. What you need to understand is why you always start strong, then disappear, and how to fix it. But first, you need to see the loop you're stuck in. And this brings me to the focus quit loop. Now, there's a thin line that separates those who stay consistent with those who always quit. And it is the false start trap. This is the winning edge in this video. If you want to fix your quitting habit, you need to first understand this loop. So in this video, I'm going to show you a clear repeated day 1 to day 3 breakdown pattern. Then introduce you to a simple system to fix this problem. But first, let's connect this to the last video. Now you struggle to focus. So when you finally do decide to start something, you go all in, studying for hours, you work non-stop, you try to fix everything at once because it feels like you're finally serious. But that's where the problem begins. You didn't start strategically, you started emotionally. And emotional starts don't last. They crash. And when they crash, you don't just stop, you disappear. Let me show you exactly how it happens. There's a 3-day failure pattern you need to know about. Every time you try to improve your life, you go through the same 3-day cycle. Alright, now, I'm driving you right into the 3-day failure pattern here. And the one has to do with overcommitment. For sure, you're motivated, no doubt about that. So you set unrealistic expectations like, I'll wake up at 5 a.m. I'll work for 4 hours straight. No distractions today. Well and good, it feels good. But it's fake intensity because it's not sustainable. Okay, so much for day 1. But you do need to be sensitive to what's going on in day 2. Because that's where reality shows up. Things are changing rapidly now because it arrives with friction. Work feels harder than expected. Your energy drops. You feel tired. It's harder to focus. You don't feel it's worth doing again. You start negotiating with yourself. And though it was a rough ride on day 2, you still try, but it feels heavier. Now, day 3 comes. This is where resistance lives. The key word is resistance. Let me tell you one thing. Life will present obstacles and setbacks that can be discouraging whenever you set out to achieve your goals. But those who persist to the end shall overcome. But here's the truth about day 3. This is where most people lose. Because your brain now associates the task with effort, discomfort, pressure. So it does what it is designed to do, avoid work. Now you skip one day, then another. Your brain starts protecting you. It tells you to do it later. And just like that, you have quit working on your dream. I know what it feels like because I've felt the nasty pangs of learning to build mental resilience at this stage. And if you want to learn how to do this, the whole detail is in my book, When the Mind Awakens. You can grab a copy on Amazon. The link is in the description below. Alright, let's continue. So now you quit. Not because you're weak, but because you started wrong. And here's the dangerous part. You think the problem is you, so you try again and repeat the same cycle. Now pay attention. You need to understand the real reason why you quit. This is super important. And most videos won't tell you this. You didn't quit because you lacked discipline. You quit because the initial approach wasn't sustainable. You are relying on motivation spikes, unrealistic outcomes, and willpower instead of structure. And willpower always loses. The point is this: when you build habits on something unstable, that's like trying to build a house on sand. It doesn't matter how motivated you are, it will collapse. Okay, let's call back the last video again, where we talked about how your brain struggles with focus because of constant stimulation. Now think about this. You're taking a distracted brain and forcing it into extreme effort overnight. That's like going from 0 to 100 instantly. Of course, it breaks. So at this point, the question isn't how do I stay consistent? The real question is how do I stop triggering the quit cycle in the first place? Now, the best way to stop triggering this cycle is to understand the exact moment you lose. And it's not where you think. So let's review the part nobody explains. Why does your effort always collapse after day 2? Now let's go back and take a critical look at the focus quit loop. This problem isn't random. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Alright, now let's look at step 1 in the loop. You can't focus, and this leads to you starting poorly. If you watch the last video, you already know this. Your focus is broken because of too many inputs, too much stimulation, discomfort, no control. So when you start something new, you don't start clean. You start in distraction mode, messy, unstable. Now, let's look at step 2. You start poorly, and this leads to you burning out fast. Now, here is where you think you are being productive. You overcompensate. You go too hard, too fast, too much. Because deep down, you're trying to prove something. That you're not lazy. That you're capable. So you push, and push, and push. Now in step 3, you burn out, and this leads to you quitting. The truth is this, my friends. From the beginning, your system couldn't handle that load. So it crashed. Your brain says stop. Not because you're weak, because you're overloaded. And in step 4, you quit, and this leads to you losing confidence. Now, this is the damage nobody talks about. Every time you quit, you train your brain to accept failure. So next time, you hesitate, you doubt, you delay. And in step 5, the loop repeats. Now you're stuck not because you lack discipline, because your system is broken. So how do you break something that feels automatic? Of course, not by trying harder, but by changing where it breaks. Now this is where the 4-part reset system comes to your rescue. Where most videos give you motivation. I'm not doing that. I'm giving you control. So part 1 is to kill the 1 intensity. You see, the 1 is your biggest mistake, not the 3, the 1. Because that's where you go too far setting unrealistic expectations. So here's the rule. Start at 30% effort, not 100%, not even 70, 30%. Example, not 2 hours of work, but just 25 minutes. Not a full routine, but only one action. Not a perfect plan, but basic execution. Your goal is not progress, it's repeatability. Because what you need is not momentum, you need to first survive. But this alone won't save you. Most people still quit. Why? Day 2. So part 2 is to win day 2. Because day 2 is where your brain tests you. Not with difficulty, with resistance. You won't feel like doing it. That's the test. Most people try to push through. That's a mistake. Instead, follow this rule. Make day 2 easier than day 1. Yes, you heard me, easier, not harder. Example, if day 1 was 25 minutes of work, then make day 2 just 15 minutes. Here you're training consistency, not intensity. Now here's the part nobody expects. Even this can fail unless you fix one more thing. And this brings me to part 3. Part 3, remove friction before you start. You don't fail because it's hard. You fail because it's annoying to start. So remove friction. And how do you do this? By 1, preparing tools before you start. 2, deciding tasks ahead. 3. Reducing choices. If you have to think, you won't act. And here's the rule that changes everything. It's the anti-quit rule, and this is part 4. You are allowed to do less. You are not allowed to do 0. That's it. That means on bad days, you do 5 minutes. When tired, do 1 step. When you have no motivation, show up all the same. Because quitting isn't missing a day. Quitting is disappearing. Now, if you follow everything I said, you won't quit. But you still won't feel motivated. And that's the next problem. Because you're chasing motivation. That's why you keep losing. Now, come close. I want you to hear this. Motivation is unreliable. Focus is unstable. Discipline is misunderstood. So what then actually works? Systems that don't collapse when you feel nothing. Now let's recap. In the first video, we fixed your focus. In this one, we fixed your quitting. But there's still one missing piece. What happens when you don't feel motivated? You can't focus. And you still need to show up. That's where most people fail permanently. So in the next video, I'm going to show you how to stay consistent when you feel nothing. Now, if you haven't watched the first video yet, go watch it. Because fixing your focus makes this 10 times easier. And if you only remember one thing from this video, remember this. You don't quit because you're weak. You quit because your system is built to fail after day 2. Fix that and everything changes. See you in my next video. Bye-bye.